right, it's a terrific Tuesday morning, and this is the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. Out here in the city of Lagos. For everybody who's listening to us right now, it's a beautiful, beautiful day. It's been a rainy morning here. Well, not really rainy, just for a little bit. And I don't know if it's raining in other parts of Lagos as well, in other parts of Nigeria as well. But wherever you are, whatever it is that you're doing, however the weather is, just know that we are here to spice things up and get you all informed about what's going on in the papers, the dailies, and the major talking points will be coming up this morning on Freshly Pressed. Another interactive session awaits you. Thank you all for joining us, as you always do. It'll be the usual. We'll take the stories, analysis will follow, as well as your thoughts and contributions. So please do join us on WhatsApp. The number is 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 0981. That is the WhatsApp number. You can also head over to YouTube where we're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. All right, joining me this morning to take a look at the stories and analyze, break it down, make some sense of everything for us. Mr. C and Chibuzor are joining me on a Tuesday. Good morning to you, Chibuzor. Good to have you on the show.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Lagos. It's a good day to be on the show.
Yes, indeed it is. Mr. C, great to have you once again.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Chibuzor. Good morning, Lagos.
All right. A couple of things that we need to jump into, sink our teeth into, interesting headlines and talking points and or stories as well. We're going to start with security and terrorism-related matters, Mr. C. I'm bringing this one squarely, dumping this on your table to make some sense of it all for us. Stepping into the punch to start with here. It says the federal government has revealed that over 730 individuals have been convicted for terrorism and terrorism-related offenses as part of its intensified efforts to combat terrorism financing and dismantle illicit financial networks. Now, the national coordinator of the National Counterterrorism Center, Major General Adamolaka, disclosed this at the on-site meeting of the Financial Action Task Force in Abuja on Monday. He mentioned that more than 90 of the convictions were secured with direct support from the Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit, underscoring the success of interagency collaboration in tracking and disrupting financial networks that support terrorist groups. So, 730 convicted for terrorism-related crimes. I remember last week we talked about the efforts being made here, and we discussed phase 7 of these trials and so on. And we asked the question, what happened between phase 1 and phase 6? Well, I guess this is our answer when it comes to that. But it's all seems so mysterious. We don't have any names or any faces or any indications of who was tried, who was convicted, and so on and so forth. Is that normal procedure, Mr. C, or is this for national security?
Okay, thank you. So, I am aware that in matters sensitive or pertaining to national security, that the courts take certain extraordinary steps which would normally not occur during civilian trials. For example, the public will not be allowed to attend such trials, and witnesses, if any, stay behind the camera, stay behind the screen, or are hooded, and their identities are not completely disclosed. They use pseudonyms or characters. Now, reading this story, it's sort of a mixed feeling for me. On one hand, 730 convictions seems to suggest some sort of seriousness on the part of the Nigerian government, all governments that have achieved this feat in tackling terrorism and the financing networks that support it. Now, on the other hand, from a civil liberties perspective, there are a number of questions. Where were these individuals prosecuted? In what courts? Because in Nigeria, we have the high courts, we have a court of appeal, we have a Supreme Court. So presumably they were tried in a high court, and presumably not a state high court, probably a federal high court, or a series of federal high courts. Now, we all know that court systems are overloaded with cases, judges are overloaded with cases. So it's interesting to know these 730 that were prosecuted and apparently convicted, found guilty, convicted, and sentenced, did they have proper legal representation? Now, this is very key because if you do not have proper legal representation in a criminal matter that could literally determine whether going forward you will enjoy freedom of movement or not. These are questions that need to be answered. If they had legal representation, was it legal representation of their choice? Or were they lawyers from, say, the Office of the Public Defender or government lawyers or pro bono lawyers? Now, that also is key because the effort an engaged lawyer put in more often than not will be higher than the effort that we put in by someone from the Office of the Public Defender. He's not being paid. You only do the bare minimum anymore. But a lawyer who's been engaged properly will put in his best because it tells on his record.
Right.
Now, what was the quality of the evidence placed before the court? Now, remember a few years ago, the UAE sent us a list of people, over 400 individuals suspected to be part of financial network supporting terrorism.
Sure.
To date, some Nigerians still do not know what happened with that list. Did we ever utilize that list? Did we ever start the prosecution with names on that list? If we started that prosecution, where was anyone convicted? Are some of the trials still ongoing? Were any of the individuals discharged and acquitted? Now, another question. 730, huge number, large number, impressive number. How many of these people are key towards financing terrorism networks in and outside Nigeria?
That is the kingpins, not the pawns in the game.
So if you arrest 730 pawns and you don't arrest a single kingpin, can you truly say you've made a dent in that network? Do you see what the NDAA does? From time to time, it arrests couriers, but it also arrests kingpins, masterminds. So in this 730, are there masterminds? Now, more importantly, Nigeria has been on the grey list of the Financial Action Task Force for a number of years.
I was going to go there.
Now, what that means is, with regards to certain financial transactions, Nigeria is watched carefully. And then there are certain transactions you cannot either comment or conclude in Nigeria.
Mm.
And that's why, for example, when you buy a ticket to a foreign country with a card, with a credit card or a debit card, they always insist that you travel with that card, so that upon arrival at your destination, you present the card. Well, according to Major General Laka, we're taking steps to exit that grey list. A team of 11 observers is expected shortly in Nigeria to review the steps that we've taken. And the local team on the ground says it's taking impressive strides on the 19 key areas. Now, I'm not sure what number represents impressive. And impressive too is relative to who's mentioning it. But let's hope that when the 11 observers come, by stroke of mercy and grace, Nigeria will truly be ready when we exit that list. Now, phase 7 of these trials has started. Again, nobody knows where they're happening. Could it be because of national security reasons? Third point. After conviction, is there really anything stopping you from telling us the names? After all, you declare some of them wanted, you post their pictures, you post their names, you declare the bounty. So if you've convicted these ones, at least let Nigerians know who has been convicted.
Right.
Because Nigeria is a strange country. God forbid any of these guys breaks out. And in 2031, 2035, 2039, the individual is running for a major public office.
I didn't even think of that. Well, this is Nigeria. I mean, the possibilities are boundless and endless, really and truly. But it'll be interesting to see if eventually those names or those individuals will be put out into the public space for everyone to know, at least bridge the gap between the questions and the need for answers that the public has been asking for a very, very long time. All right, get your thoughts into us on WhatsApp on 08094440981. A couple of messages already on WhatsApp. I'll get to those in a little bit. All right, Chibuzor, let me bring this to you, coming or stepping into the vanguard. A number of numbers in this particular story talking about the economy and growth here. The National Bureau of Statistics, the NBS, yesterday said that the nation's economy grew by 3.13% in the first quarter of 2025, following the rebasing of the gross domestic product GDP using 2019 as the base year. This growth represents a 0.86 percentage point increase from the 2.27% recorded in the same period of 2024. That's the first quarter. Now, furthermore, the NBS announced new GDP growth rates for the years 2020 to 2024, saying, and I quote, real GDP growth in 2020 stood at minus 6.96% and improved to 0.95% in 2021, and higher growth rates were recorded in 2022 and 2023 as well. Okay, so I mean, it has been said there's been growth in the first quarter of 2025 by 3.13%. But, we tend to bandy a lot of numbers and figures and statistics around. Can these numbers be backed by what is going on out there, on the streets of Lagos, Abuja, Kaduna, wherever? And if not, at what point will the numbers on paper begin to actually show the reality on the streets?
I wish I knew the answer to the last question. If I did, I would make myself a betting man and I would put my money on it and just wait for it to, return the investment. So basically, you've had you have a lot of numbers being thrown around. You have the announcement or the proclamation that that the GDP has grown by 3 point, I think it's 3 point, because we have a lot of numbers flying, 3.13%. Now, and that's, they've also given a basis where that the rebasing of the GDP using 2019 as the base year. So you're basically taking 2019 and you're looking at the growth from that point forward, and you're looking at particular items to baseline your GDP growth on. So I think the argument has, so if you want to look at there are two sides to the story. If you want to look at the good and shiny part, obviously it means that the economy is growing. Growth seems to be increasing, at least keeping on a steady about 3%, 3-point growth or 3% growth. It doesn't look bad. But when you look at the actual things, and that's the last question that's the last part of the question, which is the tricky part, which is, does it reflect what's on the streets of Lagos and whatever? It depends on what side of the street you are walking on. So there are some guys obviously who are reaping the impact of the growth, but if you look at the general population, obviously the general population is battling with several factors, including inflation, increases in the cost of goods and prices, which I would say has probably slowed down a bit because there's a bit more stability in terms of forex if you're looking at imported goods. But you're still having those pressures on things like housing and other things that are causing a major impact on people's spending and ability to spend, and even disposable income to be able to grow the economy. But you have a good basis when you look at the fact that, okay, we're looking at the growth in the economy and we're looking at various aspects of the economy that have grown. If we look at the services sector, there's some growth in the service sector. You look at, I think there's some growth in the industry sector. There is, they basically there are too many numbers to go through in the story, but they basically highlighted a lot of growth in several sectors, and to they were basically highlighted a lot of growth in various sectors, right?
Right.
To show that there's been some progress in this. I think always there's always the counter argument about how you can grow your GDP as much as possible. Then you look at your population and you say, how far are you also growing your population? And that now tends to how much can you dispose this, how much can this growth filter down, or this amount filter down into your population size. And that's one of the things we need to, I can't remember the exact number, but Nigeria is caught in this interesting point where we are probably growing our population faster. I don't want to use the geometric or arithmetic rates comparison, but we're growing it far faster than we can grow our GDP. So that's why we're having the real impact on the streets, like we say. But if we keep making these progresses in particular sectors, especially sectors that cater for large populations of people, such as agriculture, if you can revamp industry, And, there are a lot of ifs in this, given the fact that, nobody's waiting, nothing is waiting and standing still. Then maybe we'll be able to make a dent and have some really impact on people's lives. Maybe we can cut down on a lot of other things that we shouldn't be doing. But the GTB, to just rally up all these numbers, and I would actually welcome people to go through this story in the Vanguard for additional detail. These numbers cannot stand on their own, so we can't look at GDP alone and say, you know what, everything is fine and dandy. It's a good indicator of the direction that the country appears to be going in. But like you said, the final value, the final test of these numbers is that the people on the street can actually speak to the fact that their lives has improved.
Right.
And we are still on that journey, and we're still away from the hurrah point on that journey. So, these numbers need to trickle down. The developments and improvements need to trickle down to various individual sectors, and we need to see this improvement on the streets, and then we can start talking about seeing improvements on the streets. But it's a good way to go, but we still need to do a lot of other things around this. So I wouldn't, for those that want to take up their glasses and click, they can enjoy it for the moment.
All right, Jules. Thank you for that. And I'm actually glad I took this story now because, Mr. C, we are going to continue on an economic trajectory here, if I can put it that way. And we'll be staying in the Vanguard as well because there's another story here that has to do with the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. That's Dr. Jumoke Oduwole. Now, she has said that the federal government has demonstrated its commitment toward achieving a $1 trillion economy by 2030 through a domestic investment summit to actualize the 8-point renewed hope agenda. And she was speaking at a domestic investment summit in Abuja on Monday. Now, she said the ministry was accelerating economic diversification through targeted reforms in industrialization, digitization, and creative economy, manufacturing, innovation, as well, and so on and so forth. So 2030 is 5 years away. And I mean, achieving a $1 trillion economy is a very lofty dream, bearing in mind there's so many things that need to go into that. We talked about, GDP. Of course, a high GDP growth rate is needed, investment in infrastructure, FDIs, foreign direct investment. So many things go into this. Are we on course to achieving this goal by 2030, or is this a pipe dream?
Okay, thank you. So, personally, I think it's a pipe dream, and I'm going to explain why. In the previous story, Chibuzor did mention the fact that we've just rebased our economy, going back and using 2019 as a base year. Even with that magical rebasing, Nigeria is the 4th largest economy in Africa. I'm going to read out the top 4 with their respective amounts. So South Africa is the largest economy in Africa. It's worth $410.3 billion US dollars. Egypt comes in second at $347.34 billion dollars. Third is Algeria, surprisingly, $268.85 billion. Nigeria comes in fourth at $243.5 billion. Ayo, we're in the 3rd week of July 2025. That means we're in the second half of 2025. 2030 is not 50 years away, it is 5 years away. Now, growth in Q1 this year was 3.13%. Now, look at the gap between Egypt and Nigeria currently. It's $167 billion as it stands now. For us to first get to Egypt and South Africa, assuming South Africa makes no progress at all in the next 12 to 24 months. Now, for us to hit that $1 trillion mark, and it's a very ambitious mark, that means you have to have several sectors of your economy growing at supernatural rates. So you have to have agriculture, you have to have non-oil export, you have to have construction, you have to have telecoms, you have to have your creative economy.
Right.
Basically, you have to be doing double digits in like at least 5 or 6 of your economic sectors consistently for like 2, 3, 4 years. Ayo, let's be honest. This is not about bashing the APC or anything.
I cannot see double-digit growth in 5 or 6 economic sectors over the next 3-4 years. I don't see it happening. Now, we're told here that they've unlocked 50 billion in investment commitments. Please, what does that mean? A commitment is a pledge. It is not an investment. It's like fundraising ceremonies. Some individual gets up, I pledge a sum of 50 million now. Another individual gets up, I pledge a sum of 200 million now. Guess what? At the end of the day, sometimes these pledges never materialize. Now, that's a smoke screen of sorts.
Yes. Now, the minister did say that at the beginning of the year, they set a target of $6.5
billion for foreign direct and portfolio investment. What she failed to do, or what she did not avert her mind to do, was at this point in time, what have we achieved given that target? Have we done a 40% achievement rate? Have we done a 50% achievement rate? Have we done a 60% achievement rate? Of that 6 billion, how much have we raised now? How much can be attributed to foreign direct investments? How much can be attributed to foreign portfolio investments? I can say for free that foreign portfolio investment has done quite well because investors come in, invest their money in the Nigerian stock markets, treasury bills, 180 days, 90 days, get their profits, and they pull out. But foreign direct investment, which is a long-term play, is where we haven't seen a lot of traction. Despite the repeated trips of Mr. President all over the world, we're yet to see a significant uptick in that regard. Now, $1 trillion economy, for that building to materialize in 2030, the foundation must already be completed or almost completed. Have we even started the foundation? How many jobs have been created in the first 2 years of this administration? They promised to create jobs. How many jobs have been created? In what sector? Sector by sector, what are the numbers? Is it not shocking and disappointing that we still do not know how many people we have in Nigeria, how many people are Nigerians officially? A census should have been conducted by now. It's been radio silence. How do you effectively plan for this if you don't have the official number of Nigerians? So every time analysts come on air, whether it's radio or TV, everybody's guessing. Everybody's doing some sort of estimation. So with what figures, population figures, are they planning this $1 trillion economy? Because with $1 trillion economy, you have to put in place infrastructure.
Definitely.
And infrastructure is determined by the population size. So what magic are they working with? So these are...
Okay, sorry.
No, I'm done.
Okay, I think Mr. C has talked on all the points I was trying to avoid some of the, so they always decide to look at it from, and Mr. C has been very clear. If you're looking at most of the sectoral growths across the sectors, we're looking at basically single-digit points growth. I think the largest number I saw there was about 4% or just over 4% industry. If you look at agriculture, which still employs a significant number of Nigerians, it had a marginal growth of 0.07%. Now, when you look at that and in terms of the targets that are set, then you see that these targets are quite ambitious. The Honorable Minister, who is someone I take very seriously, is putting a lot of her reputation on the line in terms of these numbers that they put out and how they're going to achieve these numbers. She's spoken about how they've created some of business have been set up in form of the business zones, I think the export zones and all that. And it's good to actually see that those zones are being utilized finally, because a lot of those points have actually served as platforms for production by foreign partners like the Chinese and for exports. And she said a lot of that is going to be thrown into local markets. So there is a lot of things that remain to be seen in terms of the targets and the achievable numbers, because like Mr. C has said, it's 5 years away from now. It's not 20 years. It's just 5 years away. If we are at 3.14% or 3.4%, how much do we need to grow at? Because those are the actionable numbers that we need to see. How much do we need to grow out to hit that 1 trillion $1 trillion economy. If you're looking at getting investments at 60 billion investments, and see, my basic understanding of businesses and investments don't translate into revenue or growth. It's investments. Those investments can come in and you don't see that value economy. We've seen a lot of, especially in some of the new economy spaces like IT, we've seen a lot of money coming in and going out of the economy in terms of raising and all that.
Yeah.
How well did it create actual value in your economy to be able to say that your economy has grown to particular numbers? So while as a Nigerian, irrespective of whatever political opinion I hold at this point, I am hopeful that we should be able to hit those targets. Looking at the numbers at the moment, it sounds like still looks like a very far off dream. So there appears to be loads of work that needs to be done to get to those
Definitely,
numbers.
most definitely, a lot of work needs to be done. Well, 5 years. We'll see. We'll see if that is something that is going to miraculously happen, even though miracles do not solve these problems or get the work done. But at this point in time, looking at where we are and where it is what we're going to, we might need that. We might need that at the end of the day. All right, Chibuzor, let's just quickly step into the Guardian here and talk about electoral matters. This one was very interesting to me for a number of reasons. Now, the All Progressives Congress chieftain Fuad Oki has warned about the party's prospects in the 2027 general elections, citing a catastrophic decline in voter participation in the July 12 Lagos State local government elections. Now, according to reports on Monday, tagged preliminary report on the July 12th Lagos State local government elections, unprecedented low turnout and dire implications for 2027. Now, he said the LG election saw an unprecedented low voter turnout with less than 6% of the total collected PVCs being cast. Now, the report attributed the low turnout to a lack of trust and disillusionment with the party and the electoral process. Now, I know that Mr. Fuad Oki is thinking about his own party now. I'm not even thinking about the messenger here for the second day in a row I'm doing that. I'm looking at the numbers in terms of the voter turnout and all that. 6%. That is, I don't know if abysmally low is the right term to actually use, but looking at what we saw there, what do you think this bodes for the electoral process come 2027 and even beyond?
So if you look at see, I'm going to speak a lot from my own personal experience, and there are various factors in time that are contributing to this. So Mr. Aki has talked about, gauging the numbers with respect to those who have collected their PVCs and all that. There's and I will look at my own personal experience. I did not vote in the last elections, and I didn't vote for several reasons. One of it was that I changed my place of residence since the previous elections, and interesting thing that was it that I finally had changed. I had not voted for maybe an election or two prior to that, prior to the 2023 elections, and I just managed to change my card just before the elections. Unfortunately, I wasn't in the country to vote, so I didn't vote. Shortly after coming back that year, I moved location again, which means I have to change my location again to be able to vote where I am. And God helps me if I have to move out of this location before the next election. I have to go through that same process to be able to vote ahead of the next set of elections. So there's that logistics problem in how do we get to the point where we don't need to go through all these logistical jumps and hoops to be able to vote because of you've changed from Ojota to Ogudu or from Ogudu to Ikosi. Those are the kind of questions that we need to ask ourselves as a larger Nigerian problem. The mobility of individuals is impacting the ability to vote. Then there is the bigger elephant in the room, which is people trust the process. I know several people that I related with in terms of the last elections. And these are not just people in particular in maybe working class or social class. I was at two markets the day before the elections, talking to market women because I had gone to go and shop ahead of the elections because obviously we are not allowed to go out on the day of the elections.
Right.
And the feedback I got from both sets of women in two different markets in two different areas was that one, they were not going to vote. Two, they were going to make sure they were in their houses safe because they weren't going to be in the market because they couldn't stay overnight and they suspected there would be fights or breakout of fights. The third thing they said was that, there was no point in even voting because the results had been written before the elections. Now, either that's true or false, it's a sad narrative, and that's the narrative a lot of Nigerians believe in, or actually think as believe in. There is little or no trust in the system. And for you to get people to take out their time, you either declare a public holiday or you sit at home to come out to vote, you have to ensure that they have two things. There's safety, their safety is ensured. In 2023 elections, when you move to I think at the presidential levels, in parts of Lagos, and I'm going to speak about Lagos because Lagos is where I know. I know a lot of people come back and say, oh, it happened out in other parts of the country. But this reference of this story is Lagos. Parts of Lagos, people were openly attacked when they came out to vote because they were assumed to be voting for particular candidates. So the question is that do you expect those same people to come out in this next set of elections? We already have taken a particular direction in the minds of people. So people look at it that I'm not going to put my life in danger. I'm not going to commit to being part of a process that is already taken. So
Right.
To get people to come out, you need to repair that trust deficit. Unfortunately, our politicians and the government tend to disregard this stuff and jump around it because it doesn't suit the narrative of the day for most politicians. They want to go around it unless you are sitting on the other side and you appear to be partisan, where you're actually shouting that out. But once you're at the party of the day, most people disregard it and say, you know what, it's not what it is. But that is a big factor. People don't trust it. The candidates are not doing enough in the local government elections and councillors. These are the elections that are supposed to be closest to the people. But you saw there are a lot of candidates that did not even bother to show up or even go and seek for votes, either from which, and this is across board. You know, from the ruling party, most of them felt they were default candidates and they were default winners. From other parties, you saw the same thing around. So that's it. You know, we can go on and on and on, but see,
Yes,
we don't have enough time.
we definitely don't have enough time. All right, let me run through your messages here. A number of them have actually come in. This is Tony Marine Beach, who says these public office holders should realize that these vines they throw every now and then don't move Nigerians or make any sense to them anymore. Over the years, none of such targets have been reached or nearly reached, so they should stop talking, keep their targets in their pockets, and start working for Nigerians to see the indices for themselves as they grow. Chika says, please, how is it that we are practicing a presidential system of government and yet still ascribing the title of honorable minister to our ministers? Isn't the title of honorable minister only applicable in parliamentary system of government? Please, let's stop misusing this title wrongly. Mr. C, is that something that should be an issue?
I'm not sure. I have to check it out.
All right.
Gilbert Musa says on the figures showing official growth released by the NBS, we haven't such since 1997, 2015, and the latest now. The truth is that domestic spending of the average Nigerian has dipped since 2010 till date.
All right. Tunde says a ruling party man confided in me that the ruling party had to incentivize voters with 3,000 naira when they saw that voter turnout was very low.
And they were still very low because 6% of the numbers that have collected their PVCs, as at the last election, it was just about 1 million plus. So 6% of 1 million. This is a very horrifying figure. It shows a complete apathy, a complete absence of interest in whatever they're doing.
And it speaks volumes of the wonderful work they're doing at state and national levels.
Dr. Efobi says, FDI, when your foreign policy isn't pushed by ambassadors or high commissioners, another issue. Okay, who's talking to us here? This is, okay, there's no name attached. It says, yet another lie and propaganda of this government. If foreign governments could give us names of sponsors and we claim to have prosecuted 730 individuals, but no names mentioned, and if 730 individuals financing terrorism were, how come terrorism is on the increase? We know some of the facts presented by this government that have proved to be untrue. All right, Fabian Inekwe says, our population can be a positive for us if we do a full assessment and learn from countries with large populations who are doing well. The government should work on the educational and health sectors and create a more enabling environment for productivity while cutting unnecessary spending and white elephant projects as well. Jerry says, on the terrorism conviction story, I won't believe anything if Sheikh has not been called for questioning. He's been indicted severely, is it severely or severally in Dubai and Saudi Arabia. All right. Okay, I think that's all we can take right now. Reading to call it somebody. Thank you for the messages. Apologies for the ones I could not take. We do really value your input and contributions on the show each and every single day. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much to you, Chibuzor and Mr. C, for making it a terrific Tuesday on Freshly Pressed. Chibuzor. You're muted. You're muted.
Thank you, Lagos. Thank you, Mr. C. Thank you, Ayo. Have a lovely, wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Mr. C.
Thank you, and thank you, Chibuzor. Let's just go out and do what we have to do. Leave the politicians to the shenanigans.
Yes, indeed. Do what you have to do. Copy DM. Seize the day. All right. Let's keep the ball rolling and keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1 815. It's all about the grapevine, entertainment, and so much more.